He helped a stranger buy shoes, and lost his job for it. No warning. No second chance. That night, he thought his life was over. But the next morning, his phone rang. And the voice on the other end said something that changed his future forever. This is the unbelievable story of a boy who was fired for helping LeBron James. And how one act of kindness rewrote his destiny. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss an update. Now, let's dive into what really happened. This one decision cost him everything. Or at least, that's what it felt like in that moment. 17-year-old Ethan Carter had learned early in life that nothing came easy. Every dollar mattered. Every hour of work counted. After school, while other kids hung out with friends, Ethan rushed to his part-time job at a small sports equipment store in downtown Cleveland. The pay was low, the shifts were long, but that paycheck helped his single mother keep the lights on, pay the rent, and put food on the table. To Ethan, this job wasn't optional, it was survival. That afternoon, the store was unusually crowded. Customers moved impatiently between aisles, shoes lay scattered across the floor, and the sound of the cash register never seemed to stop. Ethan's manager paced back and forth, constantly reminding the staff of one strict rule. No special treatment. No freebies. No exceptions. Ethan nodded every time. He couldn't afford to make mistakes. Then suddenly, the front door opened. At first, nothing seemed unusual. A tall man walked in wearing a simple hoodie and a baseball cap pulled low over his face. He moved quietly, avoiding attention, blending in like any other customer. Most people barely noticed him. But Ethan did. His breath caught in his throat. It was LeBron James. Not the global icon seen on giant billboards. Not the superstar dominating TV screens. Just a man standing in the middle of a store, calmly scanning the shelves. There were no cameras, no bodyguards, no crowd following him, just silence. For a brief second, Ethan froze. His heart began to race. But what truly stood out wasn't excitement or starstruck awe. It was the look on LeBron's face. He looked unsure. He seemed to be searching for something specific, walking up and down the aisles, checking shelves, then shaking his head slightly. That confusion caught Ethan's attention more than the fame ever could. Ethan took a deep breath, straightened his uniform, and stepped forward. "Sir," he said politely, his voice calm despite the pounding in his chest, "can I help you with something?" LeBron looked up and smiled, a warm, genuine smile. "Yeah," he replied, "I'm just looking for a pair of shoes. Nothing fancy. Something comfortable." In that moment, Ethan didn't see a legend. He saw a customer who needed help. And that simple interaction, those ordinary words, were about to set off a chain of events that would change Ethan's life forever. Ethan guided LeBron through the store, moving past rows of neatly arranged shelves filled with shoes, jerseys, and sports gear. What started as a simple customer interaction slowly turned into a natural conversation. They talked about basketball, how the game had changed over the years, then about work, discipline, and the pressure of expectations. LeBron didn't speak like a superstar. He didn't rush the conversation or act important. He listened carefully, laughed easily, and looked Ethan in the eye as if nothing else in the world mattered at that moment. For Ethan, it felt unreal. Not because he was speaking to a legend, but because he was being treated with respect. No cameras. No fans. Just two people talking. After a few minutes, LeBron finally found a pair of shoes he liked. Simple. Comfortable. Exactly what he was looking for. But then Ethan noticed it. A small scuff mark on the side of one shoe. Barely visible. Something most customers wouldn't even care about. But Ethan knew the rules. Store policy was strict, any damaged item could not be sold at full price. Discounts required manager approval. No exceptions. Ethan's heart sank. He glanced toward the manager's office. The door was half open. Earlier that day, the manager had snapped at an employee for being too slow. His mood was already bad. Asking for approval now would almost certainly cause an argument, maybe even embarrassment, for both Ethan and the customer. Ethan hesitated. In that moment, 100 thoughts raced through his mind. His job. his responsibilities, his mother at home depending on his paycheck. And then one simple thought rose above the rest. What's the right thing to do? Quietly, without drawing attention, Ethan applied the discount himself. No announcements. No drama. This wasn't about impressing LeBron James. It wasn't about fame or recognition. It was about fairness. About kindness. LeBron looked at the receipt, noticed the discount, and smiled. "Thank you," he said sincerely. "I appreciate that." Ethan nodded, feeling a quiet sense of peace as LeBron walked out of the store. But that peace didn't last long. Barely 10 minutes later, the manager burst out of the office, his face red with anger. "Did you authorize a discount without permission?" he shouted across the store. Every eye turned toward Ethan. Ethan tried to explain. He spoke calmly. He told the truth. But the manager wasn't listening. "You broke company rules," he said coldly. "I don't care who the customer was." Then came the words that felt like a punch to the chest. "You're fired. Effective immediately." No warning. No second chance. Ethan removed his name badge, folded his uniform, and walked out of the store, his hands trembling. He had just lost his job, for helping someone that night stretched endlessly. Every minute felt like an hour. Ethan lay on his bed, staring at the blank wall in front of him. But his mind was anything but blank. Every detail of the day replayed in vivid clarity. The quiet smile from LeBron, the small scuff on the shoe, the moment he decided to do what he thought was right, and then the cold, harsh words of his manager that had ripped everything from him. How would he explain this to his mother? She had already sacrificed so much to keep their little apartment running, to put food on the table, to give him a chance at a normal life. Now, because of his one act of kindness, their stability felt shaken. He imagined her face, worried, asking what had happened, and it twisted his gut with guilt. Ethan's hands clenched and unclenched. He thought about the bills on the counter, the rent due next week, the groceries they needed. How would they manage without his paycheck? The weight of responsibility pressed down on him harder than he had ever felt before. For the first time, he questioned everything. Was kindness really worth the pain? Was doing the right thing always rewarded, or was it just a naive dream? His phone buzzed beside him. He picked it up, hoping for some small distraction. A message from his mom flashed across the screen. "Dinner's ready. You okay?" Ethan stared at the words. He wanted to respond, to reassure her, but no words came. How could he explain this failure? How could he make her understand that he had lost his job, not because he was careless, but because he had chosen to be human in a world that often punished it? Frustration and shame settled heavily on his chest. He felt stupid, angry, ashamed. The one moment that should have been proud, the memory of helping a legend like LeBron James, had somehow become the very reason his future felt uncertain. As the night deepened, Ethan finally whispered into the darkness, a quiet mantra only he could hear. "I just tried to do the right thing." The words barely left his lips, but in that moment, a strange sense of calm followed. For the first time since being fired, he allowed himself to believe that maybe, just maybe, doing the right thing was not wasted effort. He had no idea that somewhere, beyond the walls of his small apartment, the universe had already heard him, and that his life was about to change in ways he couldn't yet imagine. That night, fear and uncertainty were his only companions. But unbeknownst to Ethan, the very choice he feared would ruin him was quietly preparing to reward him in ways he never dreamed possible. The next morning, sunlight streamed softly through Ethan's window, but it did little to chase away the heavy cloud of despair that hung over him. The events of yesterday replayed in his mind like a relentless storm. He had lost his job. His dreams, it seemed, had hit a dead end. Every plan he had made, every expectation for the future, felt as fragile as glass, shattered in a single moment of kindness. His phone buzzed on the bedside table, jolting him out of his thoughts. An unknown number flashed across the screen. His thumb hovered over the answer button. He almost ignored it. Almost. But something inside him whispered, "Maybe this is something good." "Hello," he said quietly, trying to hide the tremor in his voice. "Hi, is this Ethan Carter?" came a calm, professional voice from the other end. "Yes," Ethan replied, confusion creeping in. "This is someone from the LeBron James Family Foundation," the voice continued. Ethan's body went rigid. He sat up straight, heart pounding. The words didn't fully register. LeBron James. The foundation. The caller spoke again, and Ethan listened in stunned silence. "LeBron mentioned you. He told us about your kindness, your honesty, and what happened after you helped him yesterday." Ethan's throat went dry. He tried to speak, but no words came. His mind raced, trying to process what he was hearing. And then came the words that would forever change his life. "We'd like to offer you a scholarship for your education, and a paid internship with our foundation." For a moment, the world around Ethan seemed to stop. His hands trembled, gripping the phone as if it were a lifeline. This was impossible. Just yesterday, he had felt like everything was slipping away, like his efforts had been punished rather than rewarded. But the call didn't end there. The voice continued, warm and sincere. "Oh, and LeBron would also like to meet you personally." Tears welled up and rolled down Ethan's cheeks. The hopelessness that had weighed him down was replaced by a wave of disbelief and gratitude. One day ago, he had been fired, his future uncertain. Now, in a matter of minutes, his life had been given a new direction. One full of opportunity, hope, and recognition for doing the right thing. Ethan sat on the edge of his bed, staring at the phone in awe. The universe, it seemed, had a way of rewarding courage, integrity, and kindness, often when least expected. That single act of doing what he felt was right had not only saved his dignity but opened doors to a future he had never dared to dream of. And in that quiet morning light, Ethan understood something profound. Sometimes, the hardest moments lead to the most extraordinary opportunities. A week later, Ethan found himself standing inside a bright, sunlit community center. The same nervous anticipation that had filled him when meeting LeBron in the store returned. But this time, it was mixed with a sense of hope he had never known before. The room smelled faintly of polished floors and fresh paint, and a gentle light filled every corner, making everything feel vivid, alive, and real. Then LeBron James walked toward him. Tall, calm, and approachable, he extended a hand and smiled warmly. Ethan's heart raced. This wasn't just a meeting with a superstar, it was a moment that felt like the universe itself was acknowledging his courage, his honesty, and his choice to do the right thing. "You didn't help me because of who I am," LeBron said, his voice steady and sincere. "You helped me because of who you are." Those words hit Ethan like a bolt of light. It wasn't about fame, recognition, or rewards. It was about character, integrity, and the simple, unshakable power of doing good. That single sentence stayed with him forever, echoing in his mind every time he faced a tough decision or a moral challenge. News of Ethan's story quickly spread. People everywhere began talking about the boy who had lost his job simply for helping someone, and how that very act of kindness had opened doors that no one could have imagined. The story became a symbol, a reminder that doing the right thing can sometimes feel like a sacrifice, but its rewards often come in ways you could never predict. Ethan went on to study business and community leadership, fueled by the lessons he had learned. He excelled academically and became passionate about helping others in his neighborhood. Years later, he returned to that same community, not as a struggling teenager, but as someone with the power to create opportunities, provide guidance, and inspire others to act with integrity. Whenever Ethan tells his story, he ends with the same message. Sometimes doing the right thing feels like a loss. But kindness never truly loses. It only waits for the right moment to return. And in that moment, surrounded by smiling faces and hopeful hearts, Ethan finally understood the truth behind his journey. Life doesn't always reward us instantly for our good deeds. Sometimes, it tests us, pushes us to the edge, and makes us doubt ourselves. But if we stay true, stay kind, and keep doing the right thing, the universe has a way of returning that goodness, often when we need it most, and in ways more extraordinary than we ever imagined.